Now, not that I know, but prisons are scary, scary places. But the things that are written on the walls in prisons have this weirdly more creepy vibe that can't really be matched. I'm Adam Andrews, and we are talking about the top 10 scary things written on prison walls, so buckle up. Number 10, religious graffiti. In this graffiti-ridden cell wall in Caracas, Venezuela, there is an obvious problem that has been made apparent in the picture available. This cell is in terrible condition, with many inmates sharing the same room. Overcrowding in Venezuelan prisons is a major problem, highlighted especially here. On the walls, though, are multiple phrases written in Spanish with religious connotations. In big, bold red letters, Casa de Dios is written, translating to House of God in English. Sorry if I mispronounce anything here, just gonna point that out now. There are multiple other Christianity-related things written here too, like Templo y Morada del Espíritu Santo, which means Temple and Dwelling of the Holy Spirit. Again, I'm so sorry for mispronunciation, I'm just gonna say that. It's not that big of a shock to see hardened prisoners with depictions of religious figures, as it's often said that the religious imagery calms the inmates spiritually and mentally, so not so creepy, kind of more nice. Number 9, the Enlightened Writings. When I became convinced that the universe is natural, that all the ghosts and gods are myths, there entered into my brain, into my soul, into every drop of my blood, the sense, the feeling, the joy of freedom. The walls of my prison crumbled and fell, the dungeon was flooded with light, and all the bolts and bars and manacles became dust. Now, I'm not sure if this guy who just said all that saw some Lovecraftian horror that drove him to madness, or if he's joking, but this is one of the weirdest things I've ever read, and the fact that it is written on a prison wall just makes it even more confusing to me. When it says the walls crumbled and fell, the dungeon flooded with light, and the bars became dust, it could be referring to some sort of enlightenment. Perhaps the prisoner found peace within himself and has astral projected into freedom, like he imagined that the bars dusted away and he could walk free, but it didn't actually happen. I don't really know, is what I'm saying. Number 8. This wall is inside an abandoned prison. It is said by one person who was working in an isolated area of the prison that it is an extremely creepy place. He spent the whole day away from tourists and visitors, sitting on the deserted floor and thinking about what happened in the prison before everyone abandoned it. That's when he found this message on the wall: "We will be back," written in black faintly on the wall. The prisoner said this in a blog post: "Spending so much time in a historic prison has made me think about what Michael Mayerfield Bell calls the ghost of place." In his 1997 paper, he is not speaking of a ghost per se, but rather the impact of resonances of places and our connections, or lack of them, to those places, and how this impacts on the human experience of place, quote unquote. After all, we are not robots. We feel strong emotional connections to some places and people and things, and mild interest and even distaste towards others, but does this impact how we explore them, how we study them, how we try to understand them? It seems almost like the author of the blog post was driven kind of crazy himself, and it's kind of driving me crazy just thinking about all this, so we're gonna move on. In at number 7, this prison wall quote making fun of the United States prison system. The fact that in the United States there are people serving 10-year prison terms for growing substance plants in their backyards, while Wall Street racketeers who have defrauded millions of people and destroyed the global economy walk free, is kind of a bizarre hypocrisy that boggles my mind. If you think about it, the guy who wrote this on the wall has a point. The total number of people imprisoned in the United States is over 2.4 million people. Out of that number, take a guess at how many are in prison for substance charges. If you guess 400,000 people, then you're right on the money. Police still make over 1 million substance-related arrests each year. That means over 16.6% of people in prison are there for non-violent substance charges. Now, for comparison, only almost 7,000 people in US prisons are there for fraud, extortion, or bribery. That's kind of a crazy stat. I don't know. Number 6. We have a joke written on the waiting cell for the gallows at Windsor Jail. Gallows, for those who aren't aware, are the section of the prison dedicated to those who are extremely devious and are sentenced to be executed by rope. The words written on the wall of an 89-year-old prison cell say 378 were moving southwest, so don't hang around. This is kind of a chillin' joke written by an inmate at the prison, and it was discovered by someone when decommissioning the prison and relocating the prisoners. This clearly shows the mental state of the prisoner that was there, knowing full well they would meet their demise in the near future and kind of coming to terms with it, I guess. So that's what the joke is about, them coming to terms with the end of the line. There's actually a whole subset of jokes that are specifically told before someone goes to their prison end. The type of joke is called gallows humor, and most people on Demise Row try to strive for the funniest jokes to say right before their end, which is, I mean, if you think about it, a little lighthearted, but also kind of really messed up. Number 5. This philosophical masterpiece. People tend to consider being vulnerable a bad thing. It's not. Vulnerability reminds us that we are human. It keeps us open to giving and receiving love. Without at least a little bit, we can become someone living in a prison of our own making, where the walls are so thick that no one can get in or out. That quote is more about the prison of one's mind than an actual physical prison, but I thought to include it anyways. It's thought-provoking and really presents a good point. Vulnerability is often the most sacred emotional state that human beings perceive. Often, a vulnerable person only shows their cards and puts down their walls to family, loved ones, or very few friends, if that at all. In reality, without being stuck in the prison of our own mind, vulnerability gives an open window into the thoughts and feelings of people who need help. Wow, very philosophical, very positive as well. That was a good one, I like that. Number 4. This piece of prison graffiti was written in the 1600s. This chilling piece of graffiti is located in Palazzo Chiaramonte Steri, a palace in Italy that got turned into a museum. It was built as a palace in the early 14th century, but it was used by the Inquisition as both a tribunal and a prison between the years 1600 and 1782. Conveying centuries of Sicilian history, this is one of the symbols of Palermo. The prisoner's art includes this magnificently ominous piece. It's a depiction of many key figures from the Bible being led out of the maw of a giant dragon-like creature by what looks to be an angel with a scythe and a scribbled off face. The wall includes things written in Latin as well, which by itself is super creepy. Latin alone is creepy. One thing I did notice is that many depictions of angels contain scribbled out or completely blanked out faces, and if you know why, can you please let us know in the comments, because that is creepier than Latin. Number 3. Aaron Hernandez. On the walls of his cell, former New England Patriots tight end Aaron Hernandez had the Bible passage John 3:16 written in blood. Per the official Souza Baranowski Correctional Center police report, Hernandez had John 3:16 with a Bible open to that passage underneath the marking and other unspecified drawings on the wall of his cell, where he was found after taking his own life on April 19th. John 3:16 is the 16th verse in the 3rd chapter of the Gospel of John, one of the 4 Gospels in the New Testament. It is deemed to be one of the most popular verses from the Bible and is a summary of one of Christianity's central doctrines, the relationship between the Father and the Son of God. What that means? You can figure that out. Number 2. Burlington County Prison in New Jersey. On the walls of this prison, there are many chilling things written. One of them being an image of Jesus, which has been restored along with the writing under it. Burlington County is trying to preserve the art written on the walls and is doing so by hiring an art conservationist to restore that art. The writing on the wall says this, from what I can tell, at least. God, frail creatures are we all, but the fewer faults to thyself and leave the rest to God. Thy conscience and there and what I wonder. What could the inmate be saying here? I have absolutely no freaking idea. That's just my honest thing, but let us know what you think in the comments. Another chilling image along with some choice words were written here too. The image is now extremely worn out, but used to be a drawing of an eye with the iris being drawn in detail, showing its characteristic lined pattern. Under the eye, the words, "We're watching you, you can't get out," are written, and that alone is very creepy. Some of the drawings were done all the way back in 1955 when the whole prison was repainted for the last time, leaving the prisoners a canvas for their creativity. In at number 1, this piece of literature that threatens snitches. Snitching is to tell the police of certain illegal activities concerning other people in the group that you're a part of to save yourself. Notoriously, snitches get stitches, and they make plea deals with police and the legal system to receive less jail time than they would have for their crime for reporting the others. However, once in prison, if someone finds out that you were a snitch, it made you an easy target for people who value honor and respect. The sentence on the wall reads this: "Doing time is a blessing unless you're a dog and do some confessing." Let's hope whoever wrote that never came across a snitch. They probably did, let's be honest with each other. You know the saying after all, snitches get stitches, and I think whatever snitch that guy came across definitely got his stitches. And that's all the time we have for today. I'm Adam Andrews, this was Most Amazing Top 10. Thanks for watching, I'll catch you on the flippy flop if I'm here again. Bye.